Emma's hand was on my shoulder, warm and shaking just a little, and the string lights above us made her eyes look brighter than they should have in a backyard at night. We were swaying on grass, slow and careful, and I could feel people watching even if I tried not to. Then she looked up at me like she was afraid the moment might disappear, and she whispered, "I've never been this happy before." My chest tightened so fast, I almost forgot how to breathe. I had not planned this. I did not come to a wedding thinking I would be the guy dancing in the middle of the yard with a girl who had one leg, while a whole town stared like they were seeing something they did not know how to name. If you had told me that morning, I would have laughed. Or I would have said, "Not me, I'm not that guy. I keep my head down, I show up, I do my job, I go home." Life in Columbus, Ohio is pretty straightforward when you let it be. My name's Noah, I'm 25, and I work as an office coordinator at a mid-sized logistics firm. It's not glamorous. It's schedules, emails, meeting rooms, and the occasional coffee run when someone important forgets they have legs. I live in a small apartment with a roommate who is always out, so most nights it's just me and the quiet. I scroll through my phone, I watch a game. I binge old sci-fi shows because future worlds feel simpler than real ones sometimes. I'm not the most outgoing guy. I've got a small circle of friends. I play pickup soccer on weekends. I've dated here and there, but nothing ever sticks. Maybe I'm picky. Maybe I'm just used to being alone. Either way, I don't force it. My best friend Lucas is the opposite of me. We met in college, and he has always been the kind of guy who can walk into a room and somehow make it brighter. He talks to strangers like they are old friends. He cracks jokes when everyone else is tense. When he got engaged to his high school sweetheart, Sarah, I felt genuinely happy for him. He deserved the kind of love that feels easy. The wedding was set in his hometown, Bellefontaine, about 2 hours northwest of Columbus, a quiet little Ohio town with rolling fields, old barns, and people who wave at strangers because they actually mean it. A couple weeks before the big day, Lucas called me and said, "Noah, you have to come. I need you there. You're a groomsman, no arguments." I said yes right away. There was no way I would miss it. On the morning of the wedding, I pulled my gray suit from the back of my closet. It's the one I wear for interviews and funerals, and I hate that those are the same suit in my life. I paired it with a white shirt and a navy tie, nothing flashy, and drove my beat-up Honda Civic out of the city. The drive was peaceful. Farmland stretched out on both sides of the highway under a clear blue sky. Classic rock played low on the radio. I felt that wedding mix of excitement and nerves, like I was walking into someone else's big life moment and hoping I would not spill anything on it. The ceremony was at a small church on the edge of town. White clapboard siding, a steeple that looked like it had been there since the 1800s. Inside, the air smelled like old wood and fresh flowers. Sarah walked down the aisle in a simple lace dress, and Lucas looked like he might pass out from nerves. But when he saw her, his whole face changed. He smiled like he had finally found home. Their vows were simple and heartfelt. No drama, no big speeches, just two people promising forever in front of about 50 guests. When they said their I do's, I felt a strange warmth in my chest, like I was watching something clean and true. After the ceremony, everyone headed to the backyard reception at Lucas's parents' house. Long picnic tables under string lights, checkered tablecloths, homemade barbecue, a big cooler full of beer and soda. Kids ran around chasing fireflies as the sun dipped low. A local band played soft country songs, and people laughed in that easy small-town way. I mingled as best I could. I talked to Lucas's cousins about the Buckeyes. I ate too many pulled pork sliders. I stayed near the drink table more than I should have, because it gave me something to do with my hands. Dancing has never been my thing. I'm the kind of guy who watches from the side and tells himself he's fine with that. That's when I noticed her. She sat near a cluster of folding chairs at the edge of the yard. Long brown hair in soft waves. A light blue dress catching the fading light. Beautiful in a quiet way, like she wasn't trying to be seen. Beside her chair was a wooden crutch, propped up like it belonged there. Her left leg ended just below the knee. She wasn't hiding it, but she also wasn't making a show of it. She just sat there, hands folded in her lap, watching the dancers with a look that felt distant. A few people glanced her way, then looked away too fast. I saw a couple whisper to each other. I saw the polite smiles that lasted 1 second too short. Something about it bothered me. Not her leg. The way people acted like she was a fragile object instead of a person. I was standing there with my beer when Lucas came up behind me and clapped my shoulder. "Having fun?" he asked. Tie loosened, grin wide. "Yeah," I said. "It's perfect. Congrats again." He followed my gaze, and his smile softened. "That's Emma Harper," he said. "My cousin. She's 29. Tough year. Lost her leg in a car accident about 18 months ago. Drunk driver hit her while she was jogging. This is her first big gathering since." I felt a tight pull in my chest. She looks like she could use some company. Lucas raised an eyebrow, then his grin turned into something mischievous. "If someone asked her to dance," he said, "I bet it would make her night, but everybody's too awkward." I stared at Emma, then back at Lucas. "You're setting me up," I said. Lucas shrugged like he was innocent. "I'm just saying, you're a good guy, Noah. Go be that." I wanted to say no. I wanted to stay by the drink table where nothing could touch me. But something inside me moved, like I was tired of being the guy who watches life happen. I set my beer down and walked toward her before I could change my mind. Emma looked up as I approached. Her blue eyes met mine with a mix of curiosity and caution, like she was already preparing to be disappointed. "Hi," I said, forcing a friendly smile. "I'm Noah, Lucas's friend from Columbus." She studied me for a second, then her mouth curved into a small smile. "Emma," she said. "Nice to meet you." We talked for a minute about the wedding, about how great Sarah looked, about the barbecue. Her voice was soft and warm, but guarded, like she had learned to keep parts of herself behind a door. Then the band shifted into a slow song, and I felt Lucas's words in my head like a push. I held out my hand. "Emma," I said, "would you like to dance with me? I can be your support if you need it." Her eyes widened. She glanced at her crutch, then back at my hand. Her cheeks flushed, and for a moment I thought she would say no. Then she nodded, quiet but clear. "I'd love to." And as she reached for me and started to stand, leaning in like she was trusting me with more than just a dance, I realized I had stepped into something that could change both of our lives. Emma's hand tightened around mine as she stood, and I could feel the effort it took even though she tried to hide it. I moved closer, steadying her without making it a big deal. She adjusted the crutch with practiced care, then set it aside like she was choosing, for one song, to trust me instead of it. "Tell me if you want to stop," I said quietly. She gave a small nod, but her eyes stayed on my face. "I won't," she said, like it was a promise to herself. We stepped onto the grass where the string lights hung low and warm. The band played a slow ballad, something old and familiar, and couples were already swaying in a loose circle. I placed one hand at Emma's waist, gentle but firm, and she rested her hand on my shoulder. I could feel the slight tremble in her fingers. At first, we barely moved. Just a sway. Small steps. My body guiding hers in a slow circle so she could set her rhythm. I kept my pace steady, matching her breath, watching her face for any sign of pain or panic. She glanced down once, biting her lip, then looked back up like she was forcing herself not to disappear into fear. "You're doing great," I murmured. Emma let out a short laugh that sounded surprised, like she hadn't expected encouragement to feel that good. "This is the first time I've done this in a long time," she admitted. "I can tell," I said, smiling, "but you're still here." Her cheeks turned pink under the lights. We moved a little more as the song built. The grass was uneven, and I had to adjust my steps so she stayed steady, but she adapted. She leaned into me just enough to keep balance, and I held her like a quiet anchor, not tight, not possessive, just present. I could feel people watching. Not in a cruel way, not exactly, but in that small-town way where anything different becomes a show. I caught a glimpse of two older women whispering. I saw a guy nudge his girlfriend and raise his eyebrows. I saw a teenager stare too long before looking away. My jaw tightened, but I didn't look back. I didn't want Emma to feel like she was being studied. I wanted her to feel like she was dancing, so I focused on her. Emma's hair smelled faintly like vanilla. Her dress brushed my hand when she shifted. Her eyes flicked up to mine, then away, like she wasn't used to being looked at like this. Like she wasn't used to being seen. "Do you ever miss it?" I asked softly, keeping my voice low so only she could hear. Dancing. Her throat worked like she had to swallow something heavy. "I miss feeling normal," she said. "I miss walking into a room and not thinking about what everyone sees first." I felt my chest tighten. "What do you think they see?" Her eyes lifted to mine, and for a second the guard cracked. "They see a problem," she whispered, "or a tragedy, or something they're supposed to feel sorry for." My hand at her waist steadied, not just her body, but her words. "I don't," I said. Emma stared at me, like she didn't know what to do with that. The song reached the chorus, and I guided her into a slow turn. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make her dress move and her face light up. She let out a laugh, louder this time. It turned heads. People paused mid-conversation. I saw Lucas and Sarah at the edge of the dance area, holding hands. Sarah's eyes looked shiny, like she might cry. Lucas was smiling like he was proud of both of us. The song ended, and scattered applause broke out, then grew stronger as others joined in. It wasn't a performance, but it felt like everyone had just witnessed something they didn't expect. Emma's cheeks were flushed, and her smile was bright in a way that felt almost fragile. Then she looked up at me, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "Noah," she said, eyes shining, "I've never been this happy before." My throat went tight. I squeezed her hand gently. "You deserve it," I said. "You deserve to feel happy without earning it." Her smile trembled, and for a moment she looked like she might cry, but she blinked fast and held it back. I guided her back toward her chair, moving slowly, careful on the grass. When she sat, I handed her the crutch and made sure it was within reach. Then I sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance but not leaving. I didn't want her to feel like the dance had been a pity moment, and now I was done. Emma looked at me sideways. "Thank you," she said, more quietly now. "For what?" I asked. "For not making it weird," she said. "For not acting like I'm made of glass." I gave a small shrug. "I'm not great at dancing," I admitted. "If anything, you carried me." That made her laugh again, and it sounded like relief. As the night moved on, people started drifting over. A woman from the family told Emma she looked beautiful. A cousin patted my shoulder and said, "Good job, man," like I'd fixed a fence or something. Emma smiled politely, but I could tell she didn't want attention. She wanted to breathe. When the crowd thinned again, Emma stared out at the dancers like she was thinking about a life she lost. "The accident happened 18 months ago," she said suddenly, voice steady but careful. "I was jogging, same route I'd done 100 times. I stayed quiet, letting her choose the pace. "A truck came out of nowhere," she continued. "The driver was drunk. He swerved into me like I was nothing. I woke up in the hospital and my leg was gone. They said I was lucky to be alive." Her laugh was short and bitter. It didn't feel like luck. My chest ached. "Emma," I said, "I'm sorry." Quote. She nodded, eyes fixed on her hands. "The pain wasn't even the worst part," she said. "The worst part was everyone looking at me like I was a before and after picture. Friends didn't know what to say, so they stopped calling. People smiled too softly. Guys didn't flirt. They stared or they avoided me." She exhaled slowly. "I stopped going out. I stopped trying. Tonight is the first time in forever I've been around this many people without wanting to hide." Her words sat heavy between us. I looked down at my hands, then back at her. "I don't know what you've been through," I said. "Not really, but I know what it feels like to want to disappear." Emma turned toward me, surprised. "When I was a kid," I said, "I had a bad stutter. I couldn't get through a sentence without tripping. Kids laughed. Teachers pitied me. I started talking less and less because silence felt safer." Emma's eyes softened. "I didn't know," she said. "I don't talk about it much," I admitted. "But I remember that feeling, like people only see the thing that's different." She nodded slowly. "That's why you asked me," she said. "Because you get it." "Partly," I said, "but mostly because you looked like you deserved a good moment tonight." Emma stared at me, and something shifted in her face, like she was letting herself believe kindness could be real and not a trick. We talked after that about lighter things. Her favorite movies. She loved old romance movies. I told her my sci-fi obsession. She laughed at me for it, and I told her she had terrible taste. The night wound down. Guests hugged goodbye. The band packed up. The sky turned dark and clear, and the fireflies faded. I walked Emma to her car. It was a small SUV with hand controls, and she moved carefully, balancing with her crutch. At the driver's door, she looked up at me. "Thanks again," she said. "You made tonight special." "Anytime," I replied. "Drive safe." She hesitated like she wanted to say more, then just smiled. "Good night, Noah." "Good night, Emma." I watched her taillights disappear down the quiet road, and something in my chest felt unsettled, like I had just stepped into a story that wasn't done. Driving back to Columbus later that night, the highway stretched empty ahead of me, and Emma's smile kept replaying in my mind. Her laugh during the turn. The way her eyes shined when she whispered she had never been that happy. It felt like one moment, one song. But deep down, I knew it wasn't going to stay that simple. The drive back to Columbus felt longer than it should have. The highway was empty, the sky was clear, and the world was quiet. But my mind would not stop. I kept seeing Emma's smile under those string lights. I kept hearing her voice when she whispered she had never been that happy before. I told myself it was just a good moment. A wedding moment. A kind thing I did and would remember later. Then life would go back to normal. Work. Soccer. Quiet evenings. Safe routines. But 3 days later, my phone buzzed while I was at my kitchen table eating leftover pizza. It was Lucas. He wrote, "Hey man, thanks again for being there." Emma couldn't stop talking about the dance. "Here's her number if you want to say hi." She seemed like she could use a friend. Quote, I stared at the message longer than I want to admit. My thumb hovered over her number like it was a door I was not sure I should open. I barely knew her. She lived 2 hours away. She was Lucas's cousin, and I was not exactly good at starting things. Still, something pulled me in. The same impulse that made me walk across that yard and offer my hand. So I typed, "Hey Emma, it's Noah from the wedding. I hope you're doing okay. If you ever feel like grabbing coffee, I'd like that." Her reply came faster than I expected. "Hi Noah, I'd love that, this weekend. There's a little cafe in Bellefontaine that's quiet." I sat there with my phone in my hand, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nerves. It had been a long time since a simple text made my heart race. That Saturday, I drove back to Bellefontaine and met her at a place called the Brew House. It was tucked on the main street, with mismatched chairs, chalkboard menus, and the smell of fresh roasted beans. Emma was already there when I walked in, sitting in the corner with a mug in her hands. She wore a simple sweater and jeans, hair tied back, and she smiled when she saw me. "No crutch today," I said before I could stop myself. She smiled like she expected the question. "Prosthetic," she said softly. "I'm learning. It still wears me out, but I'm trying." We ordered coffee, black for me, a latte for her, and the conversation came easier than I thought it would. We talked about the wedding first, the food, the band. Lucas crying during his vows like he tried not to. Emma laughed at that and shook her head like she loved her family, even when they were embarrassing. Then her voice got quieter. "That dance," she said, stirring her latte. It was the highlight for me. I haven't stopped thinking about it. I swallowed. "Me neither," I admitted. "It was good to see you light up like that." Emma looked down at the table, then back up at me. "After the accident, I shut down," she said. "I avoided crowds. I avoided mirrors. People stare, or worse, they pretend not to. But you didn't do either. You just saw me." My chest tightened. I tried to keep my voice steady. "I didn't see anything to be afraid of." Emma's eyes softened like that mattered more than she wanted to admit. I shared more about myself, too, because I did not want it to feel one-sided. I told her about my stutter as a kid, how I learned to stay quiet because silence felt safer than being laughed at. It was not the same as losing a leg, but I understood the shape of that loneliness. "It makes sense now," she said. "Why, you were so calm with me." "I wasn't calm," I said with a half smile. "I was terrified I'd step on your foot." Emma laughed, and for a moment it felt normal, like two people on a simple coffee date. When we left, I walked her to her car and stayed close while she adjusted her prosthetic. I offered my arm, and she took it without hesitation. That small trust did something to me. It made me want to be careful with her, but also brave. After that, it became a routine. We texted during the week. Nothing dramatic. Just quick check-ins, dumb memes, little pieces of the day. Then on weekends, I drove down. Our first real outing was a walk around the local lake. The path was flat, with benches every so often. Emma brought her crutch that day, not because she had to, but because she wanted to go farther without paying for it later. She set the pace and refused to apologize for it. "I need to push a little," she said when I offered to turn back, so we kept going. Halfway around, we stopped for ice cream at a roadside stand. Mint chocolate for her, vanilla for me. We sat on a bench and watched ducks skim across the water. Emma teased me for flinching at a bug that landed too close, and I told her she was cruel. She laughed until her shoulders shook. It was the kind of laugh that makes you forget time. Weeks turned into months, and our time together deepened. We wandered through a used bookstore where she picked art books, and I grabbed sci-fi novels. We tried a short trail outside town, nothing steep, just enough to breathe fresh air. When the ground got uneven, she leaned into me, and her hand slid into mine like it belonged there. "This is the first time I've done something like this since the accident," she said, looking out at the trees. "It feels freeing." But the world did not stay quiet about us for long. Bellefontaine is the kind of place where news travels faster than cars. The first whisper hit me at the grocery store. We were picking out ingredients for pasta, and an older woman from the wedding looked at Emma, then leaned toward her friend. "That's Lucas's cousin," she said. "Poor thing, and that young man must be pitying her." I heard it, clear as day. Emma heard it too. Her shoulders stiffened, and she moved faster, crutch tapping harder than before. Outside in the parking lot, she let out a shaky breath. "You heard that," she said. "Yeah," I answered, "and they're wrong." Emma looked down, blinking fast. "Sometimes I wonder if they're right," she whispered. "What if I'm holding you back?" I stepped closer, keeping my voice calm. "You're not," I said. "Being with you doesn't make my life smaller. It makes it better." She nodded, but I could see the doubt didn't vanish just because I said the right words. More moments like that piled up. A stare too long at the cafe. A hush when we walked by at the park. Kids pointing until their parents shushed them. Emma acted like it did not matter, but I saw the toll it took in the quiet pauses afterward. Still, she kept moving forward. She started wearing outfits that showed her prosthetic instead of hiding it. She posted photos from our walks with captions about taking her steps back. Friends from her old life started reaching out. People sent messages telling her she was inspiring them. I watched her read those comments with a soft smile, like she was finally realizing she was not invisible. One evening, after a good day by the lake, she hugged me goodbye and held on a second longer than usual. "Thanks for not running from this," she said quietly. "I wouldn't," I told her. "Not from you." A week later, she told me she signed up to teach an art class at the community center, helping kids learn to draw. She was nervous, but excited. I drove her to the first session and waited outside like I was afraid to leave her alone with something that mattered so much. When I peeked through the window and saw her smiling while a group of kids held up their drawings, something warm spread through my chest. She was blooming again. And that's when it hit me. This was not just a wedding story anymore. This was my life now, bending toward hers. On the drive back from class that night, Emma looked out the window and said, "Noah, do you ever worry this is too much?" I kept my eyes on the road, but my voice was steady. "I worry," I admitted, "not because of you, because of other people." She turned toward me. "Like your friends," she said softly. "Your family." I didn't answer right away, and the silence said enough. Emma's fingers tightened around the seatbelt. "I don't want to make your life harder," she whispered. I swallowed. "You're not making it harder," I said. "But you're right. If we're doing this, we can't hide from the world forever." By the time I pulled up to her place, my heart was pounding, like I had made a decision without saying it out loud. Because I knew what the next step was. I was going to bring her into my real world in Columbus, Indiana, front of the people who had known me forever. And I was terrified of what they might say, because I already knew one thing for sure. If they hurt her, I would not forgive them. The next weekend, I cleaned my apartment like my life depended on it. I vacuumed. I wiped down counters. I even threw away the stack of takeout menus I had been pretending I might use again. It was not because I cared about looking impressive. It was because I wanted everything to feel safe for Emma. Comfortable, normal. On Friday night, I drove to Bellefontaine and picked her up. She wore a simple green dress and a light jacket, and her prosthetic was visible below the hem, like she had decided she was done hiding. When she got into my car, she sat quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. "You don't have to do this," I said, starting the engine. Emma looked up. "I want to," she said. "I'm just scared." "Me too," I admitted. We drove to Columbus early Saturday for a barbecue with my closest friends. 5 guys I'd known since college. The kind of group that jokes too much and avoids serious emotions like they are allergic. I had told them Emma was coming. I had not told them everything. I wanted them to meet her first, to see who she was before they saw what they thought her leg meant. When we arrived, my buddy Mark opened the door with a grin and a beer already in his hand. "Noah finally brought a girl," he teased. Then his smile softened when he saw Emma. "Hey, I'm Mark. Welcome." Emma smiled back. "Nice to meet you," she said, calm but careful. At first, things went fine. We sat on the patio. Burgers sizzled on the grill. The guys cracked jokes about my terrible cooking skills, and Emma laughed, leaning into the teasing like she belonged there. She told them she did graphic design work and taught an art class at the community center. She made my friend Jason laugh so hard he nearly choked on his drink. I watched her, proud and nervous at the same time. She was doing great. Better than I expected. She was being herself. Then she went inside to grab more chips, and the conversation shifted the way it always does when a room full of men thinks it is alone. Dave leaned toward me and lowered his voice. "She's cool, man," he said. "But are you sure about this long term? With the leg thing, that's gotta be tough." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Dave lifted his hands like I was being dramatic. "I'm just looking out for you. Relationships are hard enough without complications." My face burned. I was about to respond when I saw Emma step back into the doorway, chips in her hand, her smile frozen like she had walked into cold air. She heard it. The rest of the barbecue was polite, but something had cracked. Emma stayed quieter. She laughed less. She looked at the ground more than she looked at faces. On the drive back to Bellefontaine that night, she stared out the window, the city lights sliding past like streaks of distance. "I heard him," she said finally. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Emma, I'm sorry." She shook her head. "It's not your fault," she said, but her voice was thin. "They're just saying what people think." "They're wrong," I said. Emma swallowed. "What if they're right?" she whispered. "What if I'm a complication you didn't sign up for?" I pulled over at a quiet gas station, parked, and turned to face her. "Look at me," I said. Emma turned slowly, eyes glossy. "I didn't sign up for anything," I said. "I chose you. You are not a problem I'm carrying. You are a person I want beside me. There's a difference." Her lips trembled. "Noah, I'm not staying because I feel sorry," I continued. "I'm staying because when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I have in years." Emma's breath shook. She blinked hard, then a tear rolled down her cheek like she was tired of holding it in. "I hate that I even have to wonder," she whispered. "I hate that my body makes people decide what kind of love I deserve." My chest ached. I reached across the console and took her hand. "Your body didn't break you," I said, "and it doesn't make you less lovable. It just shows who's shallow." Quote, Emma squeezed my hand like she was hanging on. When we got back to her place, we didn't go inside right away. We sat in the car with the engine off, listening to the quiet. Emma stared forward, then turned toward me like she was making a choice. "I'm scared I'm not enough," she said, voice breaking. "I'm scared you'll wake up one day and realize you want someone easier." I leaned closer, lifting my hand to her cheek. "You are enough," I said, "more than enough." Emma searched my face like she needed proof. Then she leaned in, slow and careful, and our lips met. It was not a movie kiss. It was not flashy. It was soft and honest, like two people finally saying what they had been holding back. Her hand gripped my sleeve as if she was afraid I would disappear. I kissed her like I meant it, like I was promising something without using words. When we pulled apart, our foreheads rested together. "I love you," she whispered. My throat tightened. "I love you too," I said. From that moment, everything shifted. We stopped pretending this was just coffee and walks. We started building something. My friends did not all change overnight, but some of them tried. Mark texted me a few days later. "Sorry if things got weird. Emma seems great. Happy for you." Dave sent an apology too, clumsy but real. "I was out of line. Didn't mean to hurt her." Emma didn't trust it right away, but she appreciated the effort. And over time, they did better. They asked her about her art instead of her leg. They invited us to things they learned. The bigger test was my parents. A month later, I brought Emma to Sunday dinner in Westerville. My mom greeted her warmly, complimenting her dress, offering extra rolls like food could solve nerves. My dad shook her hand and nodded, quiet like he always is with new people. We talked through pot roast and mashed potatoes about safe topics. My job, Emma's class, the weather. Emma charmed them in that quiet way she has. She told my mom about teaching kids to draw and how one little girl painted a rainbow on a paper leg because she said it looked strong. My mom's eyes softened when she heard that. But after dessert, my dad pulled me into the garage like he always does when he wants to say something he thinks is hard. "Son," he said, wiping his hands on a rag, "she's a nice girl, but have you thought this through? Life with someone like that. It'll be hard." The words hit me like a punch. "Dad," I said, forcing my voice steady, "she's not half a person. She's not a warning sign. She's Emma. And she makes me happy." He sighed like he did not know how to argue with happiness. "I just want what's best for you," he said. "That is what's best," I replied. Back in the house, Emma was laughing at an old picture of me in a soccer uniform, teeth missing, holding a trophy like it was the greatest thing on earth. She looked up when I came in, searching my face. On the drive home, she asked, "What did he say?" I told her the truth, and her smile faded. "See?" she whispered. "Even your family thinks I'm a liability." "No," I said firmly. "They're scared because they don't understand yet, but they will." And slowly, they did. My mom started calling Emma to ask about her art class and to share recipes. My dad started asking practical questions about her prosthetic like he was trying to put it into a box he could understand. One day, he even grumbled, "If it ever needs fixing, bring it by. I've fixed worse." It was his way of saying he accepted her, and Emma laughed through tears when I told her. We kept building, week by week, step by step. Emma started a blog about living with a disability and learning to date again. She wrote honestly about the staring, the shame, the small victories. People messaged her saying she made them feel seen. One woman wrote that she signed up for physical therapy again because of Emma's posts. Emma cried when she read that, then wiped her eyes and said, "Maybe my life isn't ruined. Maybe it's just different." I watched her grow stronger, not because she was proving anything, but because she was finally allowing herself to live again. And one summer evening, almost a year after the wedding, the town held a small festival in the square. Booths with cotton candy, crafts, music under twinkling lights, families spread blankets on the grass. When the band started a slow song, I looked at Emma and held out my hand, just like I did that first night. "Care to dance?" I asked. Emma hesitated, glancing at the crowd, then lifted her chin and smiled. "Yes," she said. "Always." We stepped onto the grass, and I held her the way I always did, steady but gentle. We moved slow, simple steps, Her body leaned into mine like trust. This time, people didn't stare like it was a tragedy. Some smiled. Some joined in. A couple kids danced nearby, spinning in circles, laughing. Halfway through the song, Emma leaned close and whispered against my ear, "I've never been this happy before." My chest tightened, just like the first time, but now it felt full instead of shocked. I held her closer. "Me neither," I said. And in that moment, I understood something I had never understood before. Happiness is not about being untouched. It is about being chosen, fully, and choosing back, even when the world tries to make you doubt you deserve it.